Perfetto.
Okay, ready?
Yes.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here with us today and for taking part in this event that means so much to us. First off, I wanted to highlight this date, the 23rd of May, which is a very special date for us Sicilians, as it is the anniversary of the Capaci bombing, as well as being a memorial day for us to honor all the people who died in their relentless fight against the mafia. As per every year, ESN Palermo wanted to take you on a tour around the city to visit all the sites in person. But considering the current unfortunate circumstances, this year we have decided to take you on a virtual tour instead. So we would like to clarify that these are just a few of the people who dedicated their life to this fight, as much more blood and tears have been shed. So now let us take you to the first place, to the first site, to pay homage to our first hero who is going to start our tour. Calogero? I can't see the map. Has he shown the site? Okay. 9th of May 1978. Giuseppe Impastato. While the majority of Italians are crying for the death of Aldo Moro in Cenisi, Sicily, a young activist and idealist is killed by the mafia and accused of terrorism. His name is Peppino Impastato, guilty of dishonoring his family name and not yielding to the mafia in the name of justice and in the name of his ideals. Peppino's family had connections with the mafia, but he always refused to be a part of it. And that is why he had a troubled relationship with his father. Since his first dealings with politics, he had always been on the side of workers and on the side of justice. He fought by means of the press, carrying out investigations and speaking without fear. He eventually founded his own newspaper in which he denounced all the local mafia families and their dirty affairs, which was something that the previous newspapers would not allow for fear of retaliation. His support for the farmers against the land expropriations, especially those that aimed to enlarge the airport of Palermo, built there because of mafia's affairs, will always be remembered. In 1976, Peppino started to become a serious threat for all those criminals who had been able to remain hidden due to people's omertà, the code of silence. That year, he founded Radio Out, a powerful means of denouncing mafia activities that allowed him to reach even those who didn't read newspapers. On the 9th of May, 1978, 2 years had gone by, with lots of complaints about him and a lot of courage to hold out against the threats. Peppino was killed when they blew him up on a railway track, making people believe that it had been a terrorist attack, while the countryside around him was tinged with his blood. January the 26th, 1979, Mario Francese. He was a journalist who took an interest in mafia affairs. He was very meticulous and precise in his job, and he even dared to interview the wife of ruthless mafia super boss Salvatore Totò Riina, Antonietta Bagarella. He was killed near his house. Boris Giuliano. July the 21st, 1979. He was a police officer of the flying squad. He was one of the first clever investigators to discover the important role of the Palermo mafia in international drug trafficking. Then he also worked out the key role of Corleone's mafia in Palermo. January the 6th, 1980. Piersanti Mattarella. He was a Sicilian politician and president of the Sicilian government. He renewed Sicilian policy, especially in the sector of directives of public procurement, as well as on moral issues. He was killed in front of his family near his house on Epiphany Day. He was the older brother of our current president of the Republic. Pio La Torre, April 13th, 1982. He was a politician, head of the Communist Party, firstly in Sicily and then in Italy, head of the Peasant Revolt, member of the Sicilian Parliament first, and then of the National Parliament. He worked on a bill which became anti-mafia law in September 1982. Rosario Di Salvo agreed to share La Torre's job and to cooperate with him. On the 30th of April 1982, while they were both arriving at the seat of the Communist Party in Palermo, they were both shot by some hatchet men on motorbikes. La Torre died instantly. Di Salvo tried to pull out his gun to shoot, but he died shortly after. August the 11th, 1982. Paolo Giaccone, a coroner. He was killed in the hospital in Palermo where he worked. His mistake, according to the mafia, was to not, in inverted commas, correct an examination which incriminated one of the hatchet men of the mafia involved in a massacre. September the 3rd, 1982, Carlo Alberto della Chiesa. He was a general officer of the Italian police, Carabinieri. He defeated, thanks to special laws and thanks to the support of some statements, the Red Brigades and other forms of terrorism. He moved to Palermo, but this time he didn't have the support of laws or statesmen that he'd always had. He was eventually killed while he was in his car with his young wife, Emanuela Setti Carraro, and his bodyguard and police officer, Domenico Russo. That night, in the spot where he was killed, an anonymous citizen affixed a placard saying, "The hope of honest citizens of Palermo has died here." July the 29th, 1983. Rocco Chinnici, magistrate, head of the office instructor in Palermo. He was a promoter of the anti-mafia committee, composed of a group of magistrates specialized in the battle against organized crime, working closely together through the exchange of information. He was killed while he was going out of his house with two police officers, Mario Trapassi and Salvatore Bartolotta, and the caretaker of the building where Chinnici lived at the time, Stefano Lisacchi. It was a massacre for which violence in Palermo was compared to that of Beirut City in Lebanon. Chinnici was one of the very first magistrates to go into schools and raise awareness in a very simple way of what the mafia was and how to confront it through spreading a sense of legality and human respect. August the 6th, 1985. Ninni Cassarà, assistant chief of the flying squad in Palermo. He worked closely with the magistrate Giovanni Falcone, who we will speak more about later. Together with Calogero Zucchetto, he had identified fugitive members of the mafia in Ciaculli, an area on the outskirts of Palermo. He coordinated the investigations against organized crime in close cooperation with the US police, and gave an extremely valuable contribution to the gathering of precious information which led up to the Maxi trial against the mafia. October the 7th, 1986. Claudio Domino. He was brutally shot at the age of 11 on the 7th of October, 1986, in an area of Palermo called San Lorenzo, while he was walking outside his mother's shop. He was the son of a cleaning manager at the courtroom where the Maxi trial took place. A commemorative stone was placed in the school after he died the school he attended. January the 12th, 1988. Giuseppe Insalago. Mayor of Palermo for a 3-month period in 1984. Many times he denounced connection between politics and the mafia. In front of the Anti-Mafia Parliament Committee, he said, "I am here today to say what I think about the Christian Democrats in Palermo, of its dirty affairs, of big procurements, of Cianciamina's tenders, of the wicked games that obliged me to resign as mayor after only 3 months. Every morning, someone put dozens of papers and documents on my desk to sign, among them lots of payment mandates for dirty affairs. Each mandate was worth billions, all that in the hope that I would eventually mistake them and sign them. But I never did." On the 12th January 1988, he was brutally killed while he was driving in his car. August the 29th, 1991, Libero Grassi. He was an entrepreneur who decided not to pay any bribes to the mafia. His example was not shared by his colleagues or by the Sicilian Industrial Federation. He was killed while he was working alone. May the 23rd, 1992. Giovanni Falcone. A roar overwhelmed Palermo and Italy. Its echo was heard from afar. We, not by chance, have already mentioned him earlier. He was a magistrate who prosecuted mafia members. He had the courage and the great ability to revolutionize the methods of combating organized crime, renewing investigations and confronting and defeating many mafia members. He and the anti-mafia pool laid the groundwork for the Maxi trial, whose sentences, upheld by the Supreme Court, were a hard blow for the mafia's prestige. It was something absolutely unprecedented, thanks also to the testimony of Tommaso Buscetta, the first ever Sicilian mafiosi boss to become an informant, in Italian, pentito. So hard was the blow that the Council of Top Bosses, headed by Salvatore Riina, reacted by ordering his assassination. On May the 23rd, 1992, while he was in his armored car on the motorway from Palermo Airport to the city with his wife and 7 policemen and bodyguards, 500 kilos of TNT exploded. Only 4 policemen survived. His wife, Francesca Morvillo, 3 policemen, Vito Schifani, Antonio Montinaro, and Rocco Di Cillo, died with him. July the 19th, 1992. Paolo Borsellino. A magistrate whose life ran parallel to that of his close friend and colleague Giovanni Falcone. They both spent their early years in the same neighborhood of Palermo. Though many of their childhood friends grew up with a mafia background, both men fought on the other side of the war as prosecuting magistrates. He was gifted with a great sense of humanity and was particularly precise in his job, in which he demonstrated extreme sensitivity as well as knowledge and competence. He was a model civil servant who was admired by his colleagues that continued to strive and work after his death. On the 19th of July, 1992, while he was going to visit his mother, he was killed by a car bomb, together with 5 policemen and bodyguards, Emanuele Aloi, Agostino Catalano, Vincenzo Limoli, Walter Cosina, and Claudio Traina. Only 1 policeman survived, Antonio Bullo. Borsellino died 58 days after the death of his colleague and great friend, Giovanni Falcone. The white sheets displayed in solidarity with Giovanni Falcone and Paolo Borsellino at parades often read, "You did not kill them. Their ideas walk on our legs." In recognition for their tireless effort and sacrifice during the anti-mafia trials, they were both posthumously awarded the Italian Medaglia d'Oro al Valore Civile, gold medal for civil valor. September the 15th, 1993, Padre Pino Puglisi. He was a priest who worked in Brancaccio, deemed to be one of the most troubled neighborhoods in Palermo, with a high concentration of mafia members and collaborators. He was killed while he was working home on the day of his 56th birthday. He was killed because he had testified to the presence of Jesus Christ among young men who lived in the area, trying to take the kids off the streets and thus out of the mafia's hands. He was eventually named a saint on the 25th of May, 2013 by Pope Francis. So to conclude, we would like to commend everyone who keeps fighting on the front line. Palermo, Sicily, and Italy alike will not yield. We are very pleased to be witnessing day by day a strenuous battle against the mafia, constantly involving associations and professional figures who dedicate their lives to this cause. We're people living with emotions, citizens ready to go the extra mile to make our contribution to society. As Roberto Lipari has pointed out in a voicemail directed to the mafia today, he says, "Dear mafia, actually, dear mountain of crap," as Peppino used to say, Peppino Impastato. Don't delude yourself thinking that our streets are empty because of you today, because of our fear. Instead, you have to worry because our heads are full of our memories, full of our hope for a better future, and full of the ideals of Giovanni Falcone. And as long as those ideals are there, we will be here. Sicily is traditions, multiculturalism, fraternity, uniqueness, culture, history, heritage, tourism, valor, colors, nature, food, art, hope, resilience, and pride. And that is why we can say loudly that we're proud to be Sicilians. Now, we thank all of you for being here with us today, for taking part in this event, and for letting our voices be heard. Thank you all. Thank you.
Hey, come here. I want you to listen very carefully to what I'm going to tell you. We both know I ordered a Pepsi-Cola, and now you've insulted me and my entire family by offering me this, whatever this. For being a civilized person, I'd like to give you a chance to make amends. Capisce? Yeah.